amazing guest with me. Her name is Sabrina Ben Salmi. She likes to be introduced as mother of five, the Fantastic Five. And we have Fantastic Four. So where's the fifth one?
The fifth one's upstairs in the meeting.
All right, so busy woman. And for those of you that don't know, Sabrina is a serial entrepreneur, and so are her children. She's a motivational speaker. She's a coach, and I think she's got so many accolades that I will have to actually open and read some of what you sent to me. Let's see if it's not going to take a long time, but I think it's useful and beneficial for people to know who you are and the amazing works that you do in the community, and how you support your children and how you support other organizations and individuals. So I think it's more than fair for people to know a little bit more about you. So I'm going to read some of your bios. So this is what Sabrina has under her belt. So let's see if I can find it. Let's see. All right. So as I was saying, she's a mother of five. She's a motivational speaker, and she is an award-winning radio host. She's appeared on TV. She's been on radio. She has appeared in magazines and newspaper. As I said, she's an award-winning author. She homeschools her children. She works currently in a partnership with Brunel University alongside her 5 children who are aged 19, 15, 12, 10, and 6. And by the way, her son is one of the youngest ever STEM ambassador for Brunel University. For those of you that don't know, they have partnered with Brunel University to put together a family workshop. I think it's to do with STEM, if I'm correct. Also, together, they have created a day family workshop as sponsored by the Chelsea Foundation. As well, Sabrina is number 2 on the list for 2019 top 50 most inspirational Black women in the UK. She's also been awarded Mother of the Year as well, and she has won multiple awards. She's a public speaker, like I said before. She's a proud mother of 5 entrepreneurial children who are also multi-award winners and award-winning authors and have their own brands. So I'm sure that you guys are going to be talking about your own projects as well. They are between the ages of 6 to 19, and her names are, let me not forget anyone. We have Lashai. She's the dreampreneur. She has written a book called Stepping Stones Formula. And we also have Trey, who is 15 and also known as I'm That Kid and Kids, and that dream big. What else? Who else is here that I'm forgetting? Yasmin, who is the lovepreneur. I love that. And she has written The Choice Is Yours. Please correct me if I'm saying this wrong. And also we have Amira. Actually, no. We have Paola, 10 years old. She has written down The Pint-Sized Adventurer. And last but not least, we have the uni of the family, the little one called Amira, also known as Mr. Intelligent, and he has written a book called I Am Intelligent. Sabrina has chosen to turn her adversities into empowering stories. She has turned adversity into hope, and she hopes to inspire others through her journeys. So she inspires global clients, and also she's on a journey of self-discovery so that others can learn from her story. She says you can turn lemons into lemonade. Sabrina has been assisting individuals and also businesses since 2006, and as a professional and business transformation consultant, empowering others to achieve their personal and professional goals. Sabrina ignites the burning desire to start living the life they've always dreamed of. She's passionate about the intricacies of the mind and our surroundings, environment, and being fully alive. She says that she likes to dance with the universe and pays it forward. Sabrina hosts her signature program called Dreaming Big together, Mama's Secret Recipe at Virgin Money Lounge. You haven't been there, that place is amazing. You need to check this out. Sabrina's background is in computer science. She's the co-founder and director of Harris Invictus Academy, who is an academy who has been graded as outstanding by Ofsted. She's also the founder of Dreaming Big Together publishing house. And she's also behind the brainchild of the Mobile Single Parents Project Dreaming Big Together. All right, I could go on and on, about her massive accolades. So I want Sabrina to actually start by sharing her journey with the audience. I think my first question to you is how your journey into homeschooling began, I should say.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. Do you want to say thank you, guys?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent question. In all fairness, I like to believe that I was the initiator for homeschooling. I wasn't. It was Amir, Paolo, and Yasmin. And Lachey, in some respects, years back. So the three of them constantly, and I mean for 2 years, in Amir's case. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I'm just trying to make myself comfortable. I'm just on the
Sorry. In Amir's, with regards to Amir, it was 2 years settling into school. I would take him into school, and we all know that some kids take a bit of time to adjust, but not 2 years. So I knew that something wasn't right. And he would say things along the lines of, why am I here? I'm losing myself. When are you going to homeschool me? And I was thinking, that's quite poignant questions from such a young person, you know. And I didn't really have an answer for him. Turn off the washing machine, please. Okay. Sorry, we're just going to turn off the washing machine. Realised we were just immune to it in the background. And he calls me to start thinking about my parenting, because my son, there he was asking me, he wanted to be homeschooled and asking me why he was in school, and it made me have a flashback to when his sister had to miss a year of school. So she went through some serious bullying. And I homeschooled it, and it was purposely just for a period of time till we found another school. I never thought about homeschooling long term, because for me, school was kind of childcare, in all honesty. So it was a place I could leave my kids for a while, because I've always educated my kids at home, and they've always been involved in a number of things that we'll get to when we go through your questioning. So to answer that question, there was a number of factors, but I had also been battling the state school system for maybe 15 years, all kinds of audacities, just not feeling really fulfilled, listened to. And it really dawned on me that, unfortunately, as a parent, I felt as if I needed to have a PhD. I had to have legal representatives. I had friends that came in to represent me. And I sort of felt that if I had to do that, and I knew that I had that support system in my network, what about the people that couldn't speak English? What about the people that don't have friends and don't know who to turn to? So I had this internal conflict with regards to the educational system, where on one hand they're saying to you, let us know and we'll work with you, but on the other hand they're brushing a lot under the carpet. And there was serious incidents. Yasmin was attacked twice with scissors, once in the classroom, once in the playground. So there were lots of things that kind of led up to saying, actually, enough's enough.
What borough was this, if you don't mind me asking?
Redbridge.
Redbridge. All right, I taught in Redbridge, and from what I can remember, it was area predominantly Indian. Was that the case when she was growing up, when she was going through school? So what was the population in terms of the management of the school? Was it representative of the community, or was it monocultural?
That's an excellent question. I feel that you can get down. Stop it. Sorry. I feel that that really depicted on how the schools acted. So, and we lived in the borough for 10 years. So what we realised is that it was a very predominant Muslim community, but a lot of the people that were going, because my children moved schools on three different schools. For the little ones.
In the same area.
Yes. Which was just ridiculous. And they all went to separate schools as well, because they didn't have places in one. But what I found is that one of the issues was definitely a cultural issue, because there were mothers that couldn't speak English, that they were kind of fearful of their partners, so they didn't want any problems from the school, so they had to stay quiet. So someone such as myself, who has always been very vocal, outspoken, I was seen as the troublemaker, because they used these authoritarian behaviors to just bully parents. So I remember, I don't know, you may remember this, I can't say the name, but in one of the schools, Trey Sean School in particular, they held us at the gate. So an incident took place, and they basically said they do not want parents to actually go to the classrooms anymore to pick up the children. And basically each child had to penetrate this human wall. And it just didn't make any sense. But again, because they wasn't English speaking, because a lot of them were going through certain issues, they weren't really challenging what was going on. And then the school was getting away with it. So they were getting into these cycles of bullying mentalities. To give you an idea, every Friday was also allocated for referrals to social services. And I represented quite a few, the Mobile Single Parents Project represented quite a few parents that were systematically reported to social services. And there was a mother of 4 that I can remember that I was representing, and she was being done for child neglect. And the head teacher basically said her son had turned up hungry, and they said that she's not feeding her child. But the argument was she was presenting food, all of her children were eating except for this one boy. He didn't like to eat breakfast in the morning, which is perfectly normal. You know, I've got 5 kids. Some like to eat on the way to school, some like to eat here. You know, if you're a parent, you know that not all kids sit down and eat their breakfast. So it was just a case of this bullying mentality. So yeah, it was rampant, really was rampant.
And at that time, you said that you had support, but what was the initial school reaction when you would confront them about certain issues?
That's an excellent question, actually. To flash back, so I didn't have support at home in respect. So my husband's mentality was a bit different. So it depends on where you're raised. So a lot of the thing was he expected the school to do more, but I knew they wasn't going to do more, so I had to really fight for that. I had friends. So Iwemade Orabator is the gentleman who I opened Harris and Victor's with. So I had very good legal backing. The Harris Federation was founded by Lord Peckham. So their initial reaction was, oh, another mum, here she comes, you know, it was like that, by just my kind of superficial appearance. But when they knew I was serious, when they knew I wasn't going to back down and do not do this with my kids, and also furthermore, don't do it with people that I become aware of, because we did used to actually represent families. So initially, the school would do a lot of false impressions of, I care about this, I'm going to remedy it, but then they'll come back and say, oh no, I don't think you understood, it's a misunderstanding. But when they realised my association, which I think is wrong, they started to act in some respects, but I just wasn't happy.
Okay, they acted like they cared, but in fact they were not.
No,
aggressive.
I don't think I had to go to that extent, because I actually had to get legal representative for all 3 schools actually, for various reasons. In one of the schools, Yasmin was actually pinned to a fence by a boy holding each arm while 2 was punching her in her stomach. And there was a girl in the classroom who was actually systematically bullying her and other children, and would literally threaten other children for being witnesses. And I said, that's really like not narcissistic behavior from a child. I'd never seen children to behave like that. They were only little. And at first they were kind of, okay, this is what's going on. But then they tried to cover it up when they saw the severity. And then I got a call from one of the teachers who actually witnessed the attack. And she said, Mum, had I not seen it myself, I wouldn't believe what's been going on for your daughter. And then I had to take her out of the school. It was just too much.
Oh, right. And how was your daughter after that emotionally? So Yasmin, you might want to answer this. How do you feel? How do you feel after that event?
That was the time when I started like shutting down and like pushing away some of my family, because I believed that if there was one person that was doing it, I believe that the rest would start. So I started to become very disconnected with my family. And ever since, I've been taking us to events to show us that we can be different and that we can change our bad times into good things. Then I started like opening up, and then I started writing books, and then
That's great. Do you think that the school had as an ethos values of respect? Where was that spoken to in the assemblies or even in the circle times?
No, I think they did sometimes.
The one where I got pinned didn't have ethos, but the secondary did.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it was not consistent, and that's something that I find sadly very dominant in many schools, where the academics is what counts, and then the morals and respect actually third party, is that it's not even acknowledged. And so that's why that's something that unfortunately I saw a lot while I was doing supply teaching myself, where you would see horrendous behavior, you will report it, and then people will want to kind of put it under the carpet as just minor. And I witnessed myself children being attacked by 3 in a class, and I had to kind of put up with it. I was like, well, I'm not putting up with this. Obviously, I didn't want to go back to those schools, but you can imagine as a parent that your child is coming home, and then your child is the only witness, and you have a whole institution actually kind of covering that up and not wanting to address that. And then no wonder that we hear certain behaviors of teenagers acting a certain way when they're going into secondary school, or even after they finish education. I found that as appalling. That is embarrassing.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad to see that you actually move forward from that, because unfortunately many young people actually trap in that system, and they internalize it. They either become the victims or they become the perpetrators. And how about Trey? Trey, did you also suffer from? You went through anything like that in school, or for you was completely different?
So in secondary school, there were only a couple of problems. However, in my primary school, in my primary school, it was a very big building that was split into 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it went from nursery to year 2, to year 3. And then there was from year 4 to year 6, which was a separate but connected building. So they had like a gate just cutting them off.
Mm-hmm.
So in primary, I had a few issues, but not as many in the secondary.
So would you say it was a kind of a happy primary setting for you then?
No, not really.
No.
The thing with Trey, which was quite interesting, the whole agenda, the agenda on young black boys, I had lots of conversations about that. And I never, Trey Sean was my second child, so I hadn't experienced it obviously with Lachey. So I was like, I don't want to be negative, I don't want to pump that into him. Mm-hmm. I must admit, I think maybe he wasn't aware fully of the context, because I don't really like to bog them down with too much negativity. But it got to a stage where Trey was incredibly quiet. He's always been incredibly quiet in school. And I got called in just to say, he's really quiet. And I asked stuff like, does he have friends? Is he interacting? He goes, he's on top sets, everything's fine. So they said they wanted me to bring him out of his shell more. And I said, well, I don't really believe in that. I believe that every character is different. I said, the worst thing you can do to a natural introvert is to try and bring them out to be loud. I said, not every child is loud. And I was saying, the class is full of really boisterous boys. And I said, perhaps Trey's not like that. So we had that issue, and it was just like a little thing. But very soon after, I got called in saying that Trey Sean was aggressive and he was disrupting the classroom. So I said, I was just seeing. It was in the space of weeks. It wasn't a long period. I said, I've just been told my son doesn't speak, let alone, disrupt the classroom and all the rest. So Trey Sean was actually being systematically bullied. And then it was all this case, how are things at home? What's going on in the home environment? I think Trey Sean has aggression issues. And I'm looking at my child in this meeting, and he wasn't speaking. Exactly. So there was I was in and out of the school with Trey Sean, but the good thing, he supported me because his behaviour was excellent. You got the odd 1 or 2 teachers that were being very patronising and trying to play that card, but because he was so consistent with his school reports, he had a tutor at home. So it was really weird. They kept him throwing this stuff, and then I had to constantly just negate it. But again, the question came back, if I was a woman or a mother that didn't have the confidence to say, what, I don't like this, I don't like that, or I'm going to call someone, what would have happened to my son?
Okay. Wow. were you ever part of the how do you call it, PTFA in any of the schools?
No, it's interesting. So when I started my mothering journey, I kind of got into being a part of that. But then when I realized there was a lot going on. So one of the mums was on the governors, the board for the governors, and she was told not to say anything. She just has to say yes to everything that was going on. So there was lots of systematic bullying. And for me, I've always been very cautious of choosing what I partaked in. And, you know, it sounded like a wise thing to do, because obviously just to be like a helicopter mum, be involved. But I felt the fact that I wasn't so inserted into that negativity gave me the scope to be able to support more people.
All right. I find that very interesting, because I just realized that many parents in our community are not part of the PTFA. And I remember working in a school in Southwark, and you know, Southwark is primarily African, Nigerian, and I was in this little school, one form entry, and when I looked around the PTFA, if they had to do any cake sales, any fundraising for the school, it would be mainly the few middle class parents that would happen to be there, which I found that really bizarre, really bizarre, because now looking back and now looking where I am working now, which is a middle class area, it's, you know, everyone is fully involved.
Yes,
You don't see many diversity in those PTFAs, and I think they have a lot of power if they are well versed. Once again, if they're able to stand up.
Yes.
So that they do have power, and I think many parents in our community, they are forgetting or neglecting that PTFA is an avenue to apply pressure on schools. You can influence. Let's move on. Let's not be negative and say apply pressure, but I think influence what goes on in the school. You can decide what kind of lunch your children get, hot lunch, what kind of menu they get, that to the PTFA. Whether you celebrate British Science Week, that's to the PTFA. What guests and authors you come to the school, that's the PTFA. Where do the children go for year 6 trip? That's PTFA influence. So there's a lot of power within the PTFA, and I think many parents in the community need to be aware of those avenues before escalating things to let me get someone to back me up legally. I think that's really important, something for people to consider. But going back to the story, I would like to ask you as well, who guided you or inspired you through the journey of homeschooling? Because I know that, as you said before, it was not a nice beginning. It was through a series of bad experiences that your children went through that you decided, okay, let's put an end to this and let's get the education of my children in my own hands. So who inspired you, who guided you through this process?
Who guided me and inspired me? That's interesting. I've always been a very intuitive person, in all honesty. So the decision to actually make that final leap from state school to homeschooling was an actual impromptu. I don't know if you guys remember, I just kind of got up and said, guys, you're not going back to school. And they were like, oh, like Paolo and, you know, the 3 of them were like, yeah. And Trey Sean's looking at me going, are you mad? Like, what's going on? So the transition, and again, like, this is what I've shared in the book, is that our transition was ever so slightly different, purely because I had been homeschooling my kids since day dot. Does that make sense? Some parents, they send their kids to school and that's it. The child comes back, they do their homework, and that's it.
That was
Whereas and there's no judgment around that. You see, we only do what we do. But because I'm of the entrepreneurial spirit, I was like, I didn't get school. I kind of thought, if they're not in a private school, state school cannot do for my children what I know they need. So where are the life skills? Where are the entrepreneurial skills? Where are the emotional intelligence skills? Where's the mental? I knew that the school didn't have those, so I had to forage for them outside. So when I had this intuitive decision to make the leap, I made calls. You know, I contacted the borough, I found out laws, I spoke to people. I didn't have a group at the time when I left. We had a couple of tutors, but there was nothing in terms of infrastructure, and that was the thing that kind of stopped me from doing it years and years ago. May I stop it, please? Sorry. So basically, I remember making a decision and saying, oh my God, what am I going to do? So it's a bit like what's going on for the whole world, you know, being told that, okay, we're all going home and then it's lockdown. We were literally in the same position as you, because it was a shock to the system. Yes, we were excited, but we didn't have nothing in place. Mm-hmm. So what I started to do was forage for, how can I have structure without having too much? So having an essence of infrastructure. So my kids are very varied characters, as I guess you can imagine, and you've met them already. So the whole school system of, you know, 9 o'clock and then finishing school at 3, and some people do that, and it's really important to find out what works for your family. So what I had to realize is that a lot of our activities had to be immersive and experiential learning. My kids, for Trey Sean, it was making money and socializing, or he was going to climb out the window and go back to school. I had a window of 2 weeks to convince that young man to listen to mum, because he was not buying it. He said, I want to go home, I'm going to phone the school, I'm going to re-enlist myself.
Trey, what do you miss the most when your mum decided to homeschool you?
Just school as a whole, everything.
Everything, the whole thing. And what about you, Paola and Yasmin? What do you miss the most then? If you miss anything at all?
Miss your friends.
Yeah, I miss some friends, but like on the day before, Mum told us that after tomorrow you're leaving school. Well, when Mum picked me up, I was just smiling at all my friends. Like, I was just waving at them. I'm never going to see you again. And then, yeah, it was really, really fun being homeschooled, and I was so happy. Yeah.
So you, I'm guessing that you didn't miss anything at all from school, from the state school.
Your friends, yeah.
Oh yeah, some friends, yeah.
Your friends. And what about you, Yasmin? What do you miss, if you miss anything at all?
What did you miss, Yasmin?
Well, I missed some of my favorite subjects, and the library.
Yeah.
The library.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now you have one at home, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
All right. So did you guys take part in the tailoring of what you were learning? Do you take part in the lessons in itself? Because Trey, your mom said that you wanted to make money. So for you, were you part in the process of you know, deciding what is it that you wanted to learn? And I knew that you, Paola, you're into engineering. Were you into that? Okay, I want to make things all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you were part. So you guys were part of the whole process. So you designed the curriculum around your child's needs, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And this is what we've put in the book, is that it will not work unless you have their input. Because when it's homeschooling, remember, see, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, you know, Sabrina, how do you do this for your kids? My child won't listen. And my kids have their ups and downs. You know, we're an ordinary family. The essence was that if we don't include our children in the rest of their future, they're going to go all over the place. They've got to see the benefits. You know, I cannot control a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, 11, 6, and 19 if they don't feel they have an invested interest to come along with me. So my approach was pretty wacky. So although we're homeschooled to an extent, we spend a lot of time outdoors. We go and immersive learn. You picked up on an amazing essence with regards to their different personalities. So Paolo has had a dream to become an engineer for years. Mm-hmm. And then when we got the call and had an amazing connection with Brunel through a wonderful lady called Leslie, his dream was becoming true. The fruitation was there. We live all the way in Essex, and we were journeying all the way down to Uxbridge. You know, it's not a stone throw away, but to get kids out of the bed in early in the morning, they're not going to do that for me. They're going to do that when they understand, wow, I can now do what I love most.
We were so excited on the...
Yeah.
Normally, when Mum would wake us up, we'd like,
go back to sleep.
Yeah.
We'll go back to sleep. Because
I get growled at.
Because we have to wake up so early in the morning because it's so far away. But when it came to Brunel, it was like, Mom. Yeah, when it came to going to Brunel, it was we was really annoyed because they were every Saturday And we wish that it was all the days, because we wanted to go to Brunei all day, every day, to have fun at Cosmo.
And it's funny you said that, because it was supposed to be every Saturday, but we often went there to different engagements as well. So imagine it's like a 2.5-hour journey. And for their school journey, it used to be a 1.5 hour. And the different in characteristics, like they're jumping out of bed, they're laughing, they're going, "Thanks for waking me up, Mum." And I'm going, "I've not heard that before." So there's definitely an enrichment side to it, definitely.
So what would you say you have learned about you and your children and the community through this journey of homeschooling?
Oh, excellent question. So number one, what I've learned about me is that as parents, we sometimes feel overrated. We are not in control of all of it. And I think sometimes if we give up that whole pushing and pulling and needing to know everything, needing to be the go-to, needing to be everyone's answer, everyone's friend, what I had to learn, Amia, stop it please, it's not nice. One of the biggest shocks for me is that my girls, they're very much like, they'll talk to me about things, but my sons were, well, especially Trey Sean, he was like, "Mum, I don't need you to do this," or "I don't want to talk to you about these things." You know, he's going through his, manhood. He's transitioning from boyhood to manhood. And I felt that I was very proud of myself for just being able to let go and realize that it's not about me, because sometimes parents feel really guilty that their children don't want to talk to them about certain things. And I just thanked that we had a good network of support that they can actually interconnect with. But also just understand it's about your child's journey. So if they happen to come to you, and they do, we all talk about many things, but I also had to respect the fact that sometimes Trey wanted to journal and he didn't want to share that with me. And Trey has this thing about only wanting to talk about men's stuff. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then because I respect that element of him, you find that you end up opening up in different ways, which has been really amazing. What I also learned with the second part of your question, is that when you're homeschooling, it's really important that you remember the old quotation, the African proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." It really, really does. So if I want to be the one to teach Paolo engineering and teach Tracy financial education and teach Yasmin about animals, they wouldn't get very far, because I know little about all three of those industries. So what I found is that by creating relationships, creating those immersive experiences for my children, they can go into areas in a depth that is beyond deeply profound for myself, because it's outside my current awareness.
So what have you, can I ask your children the same question? What have you learned about yourself through this journey, Yasmin? Let's start with Yasmin.
Yeah.
I've learned more about myself because at school they didn't really let you to express yourself as much as you would when you're at home. So when I'm at home, I can learn the subjects that I've always wanted to learn. At school, they teach you the key subjects and 2 or 3 languages that you might learn, which is Spanish or French.
If you're lucky.
But at home,
That's true about languages. What languages? Yeah.
But at home, I get to learn Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Spanish, French, Arabic, German.
No, I think that's it.
Yeah. I'm gonna start learning German because it's a bit hard though.
I'm so glad you asked Yasmin that question, because I overlooked that, because Yasmin has a talent for language and she's only discovered that since leaving school. And it's very, very interesting. Well done for remembering that.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting, because many children, unfortunately, especially in this country, they don't like languages because it's so forceful, so target driven, that drives their enthusiasm out of children. So well done. Well done. Yeah, so you have a genuine interest. You have a genuine interest, and that's going to pay off. Believe me, it's going to pay off big time. How about you, Paolo? What have you learned about yourself through this journey? What is it that you didn't know about yourself that you know now? Maybe mom or your siblings can answer something. The difference, the before and then after.
I've noticed that since Paolo's come out of school,
Very cocky.
That's not what we say. That's not the right word. You're cheeky. That's not the one. What I've noticed is that since Paolo's come out of school, he has really expanded in a very adult context. What I've realized is that Paolo was really shrinking into being like his peers at school, and he was like, because he lived two lives, and that happened for all of them in different ways. So it was a lot of having to try and, I won't say I do this, I won't say I like that, because that's not what they do. So I found that he was really sharing half of himself, and I think now when he's come to his full fruition, one thing that I've noticed is, and I'm sure you'll remember when I tell you, he's become a serial, galactic, international entrepreneur. Like Paolo has been doing some interesting things that are going to impact this world for generations to come. This year, once we come out of isolation, like he's created 3 really powerful deals that are going to go out into the continent of Africa. And I can't say too much because we're in NDA, but we got to Brunel University because of Paolo, and I really commend his siblings, because his siblings came to Brunel purely to support him. They were like, okay, I'll go on the course. You know, I know you like it, but then they fell in love there. So Paolo's been the one that's really been bringing in those awesome connections, and they all have in their own different ways. But since you've come out, I think collectively they've all stepped into their power about who they can be now, not when they grow up.
I think like what you were saying, like how I pick up a lot of deals and like businesses. I think now I'm very good at creating long-term relationships with company owners, CEOs, CFOs. Any of them. I'm really good at creating relationships with them so that we can have partnership in the future, and also I'm very good at creating opportunities.
Definitely, definitely.
So do you think that you would connect more with older people now that you are into this journey than younger ones?
Exactly.
So both really. You still connected to kids.
Both. I'm connected to kids, but yes, the interviews that I've done was with Dr. John D. Martini. Yeah, so I got to interview him. I think we're still in contact.
Well, you're doing another movie coming up. Paolo's had an interesting journey because, like, the kids don't work all day long. Like, part of the homeschooling ethos is that they have more freedom, so they're very more focused. We might spend a week on one topic. I think that's really what homeschooling gives you. It's such a broad spectrum that you get to determine. And I think homeschooling is so important regardless if your child's in school or out of school, because my mindset around homeschooling is that teach your child how to live in the university of life. Let them be a lifelong student there. And they can only do that when they know how to harness their own internal powers and have confidence in where they're going, who they are, and what they bring to the table.
Excellent. Can I ask Trey now, what have you learned about yourself since this journey?
I've learned many things. I've learned, so as a result of coming out of school, we've been able to attend Brunel University, and then from there I've learned like what routes I need to go down to pursue certain goals and dreams, and just to also help me to get ready for like what paths I need to choose.
Do you guys think that homeschooling has brought your potential, as you said, closer, and also your goals more into the physical realm rather than something in the fairy world?
Yeah, definitely. Because when we was at school, like with my little brother, he would like go to school and he would like tell his friends what he does, and even sometimes the teachers. And he tells them, I've written a book about affirmations. And some of the teachers don't even know what affirmations is. So, and also, so like, if I was to ask my teachers or something to have like a motivational speaker in school and to have a presentation, they'll ask me, what's that? And so mums, with homeschooling, mums helped us a lot. So she, instead of going to science teachers, math tutors, English tutors. Mum's taken us to the experts. So yeah, so scientists, biologists, and yeah, so all the experts in different fields. Mum's taken us to them. Yeah,
Right.
so
you've been made to basically what Mum has allowed you guys is, and also you have done it for yourselves, is that you have brought those mentors and coaches to you so you can speed up the process of, you know, as you mentioned earlier, self-discovery, which is great. And that's what ties in with my next question. What's your routine like? I know that you don't have a timetable as such, but what's your routine like? Let's start with Yasmin. What do you do? What's your routine like in the mornings?
So I've actually started videoing what I'm doing as my daily routine. So in the mornings, I like to read one chapter of my favourite book called Art and It's Given. So I started videoing that as content and putting that on Facebook. And then in the evenings, I like to read more of that and then put some more things into my gratitude jar. So I started this thing called a ripple of love, where someone writes something that either they're grateful for or that they like to have, or that they already have, or they're grateful for their life or something, or something inspirational. So they put it in, and then another person comes and they take something out, and then it's basically taking something and putting something back in. So it's giving back, but also receiving.
And you do your maths and
yeah, and I do like I've started studying psychology and anatomy.
Oh wow!
So yeah.
And then you have like tutors. You have your maths, English, and science tutors. They're kind of core subjects.
Oh, excellent. And how about you, Paola? What's your routine like?
So like Yasmin said, in the mornings I do videos about so in a group on Facebook. So just everyone who I know on Facebook gets to know me better. So yeah, do videos around that, and then once I finish reading, me and Rijole on the side, after we finished everything that needs to be done, we have our own gaming channel that we play after doing what we need to do, and then we can have a bit of time to ourselves, setting up our gaming channel, and and complete other things as well.
So do you do any reading and writing?
Of course we do reading. So we do lots of reading throughout the day. We even do videos of us doing reading. So I'm reading a book called Start With Why, and now I'm on my 4th chapter that I'm going to start reading soon. And so that's my daily routine, and that's basically what
All right, thank you for sharing. What about you, Trey? What's your routine like?
So my routine is obviously get up, get washed and everything, brush teeth. I
do that too.
And then work out, like a short workout in the morning. And then so obviously after that, then do the tutoring, the maths, science, English core subjects. Then I have a little trading book just to help me stay on top of remembering everything. It's everything that I've learned from Rijole and Pally, and then I just go over that to my memory. And then I have a couple of other things that I do. We had nutritional drinks that we do in the morning. Then we do reading for about, it depends how long the chapter is for, usually about around half an hour. And then after that we can
eat? We can have
obviously eat.
Do you know what? It's quite interesting listening to them. You guys did really well. So the reason why it sounds all airy-fairy is that we diarise everything. So how it works is that we don't do the same thing every day. So I think the kids are all trying to grab like what's similar each day. So because we have network and peer and coaches and events, a lot of our day is depicted around different engagements that we're involved in. So before all this took place, we would be out running workshops at Chelsea or Virgin and Brunel. So Lachey's spoken at Brunel, Trey Shaw's got some speaking engagements there, and they're running workshops. So their academics is sectioned in a way that will go throughout their life, because as a family we believe in lifelong learning. So a lot of what they do is a lot of reading, immersive learning, spending time with different mentors at their homes. We travel, we attend events. So the best way to kind of describe it, we're not doing things that kind of take us outside of life. Our life, we're just living our life, if that makes sense. So you imagine an adult person and you just schedule in, what's it for today? What are we focusing on? Have we completed that project? Because apart from all their academics, they also have their own individual brands. They have their own individual books. They have their own individual publishing houses. So like listening to the kids, you did well. There's so much for them to remember, but because of the way it's all stagnated, it's very organized through a diarization rather than, because if they did school life, so to speak, from 9 until 3, it means they wouldn't be able to do everything else. So it's just integrating what's going on this week. Where do we do that? Okay, we're spending a week on this project. Okay, what are we doing with Brunel? So it's very much, they're just living their lives and things get slotted in as of when, but then they've got the core subjects where they meet with their tutors on a weekly basis.
Excellent. So now that leads us to the next question, and it's the following: why do you decide to write a book?
Oh, that was you and us. Okay.
I know that all of you, actually, by the way, all of you have written books. So it's now we can go around and you can share why is it that you decided to write a book. Who wants to answer first?
So there was, I think.
So who wants to answer first? Are you going to go first? Ask first.
Oh yeah, who's my answer?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I think that there's 2 reasons why I wrote the book. So the first reason is I saw my mum writing the book, all my other siblings were writing the book. So I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. So then I'm a bit wild. So mum would tell you I'm the wild child of the bunch. Yeah, so I wrote a book about getting kids off their iPads and into the world. I work with a company called Water to Go. As of writing my book, so mum and my siblings inspired me to write the book, and then I just wrote it. And the second reason why I wrote the book was because I wanted, what the book is about. It's about getting kids off their iPads and into the world. A lot of the time when you walk outside, when I walked outside, or let's say we went to a restaurant, maybe, so we go anywhere, maybe it's a meeting, and you always see like at least one kid on his iPad playing games, and it's not just for like 30 minutes straight on, it's for like 24 hours per day. They're face to face with the phone, and their parents, they just let them continue playing all day. My book is not about completely eliminating screen time, it's about reducing it. So I'm teaching kids to reduce their screen time because it can have lots of different effects on your body. So it can affect your eyesight, like lots of people know, but they still play video games. It's really
and it's good to be honest as well. So one of the reasons Paolo did get started is because Paolo was becoming quite aggressive when he was playing. It was changing him. So it was a case that I was trying to get you off. Dad was giving you a computer game. We were going back and forth. And then you were challenged to do some research, if you remember. And then you started to find out.
So you were converted.
Yeah. So his gaming time is much better now. Really, really healthy. So I'm glad. I really am proud of you, to be honest.
Yes, thank you.
What about you, Trey? Why did you decide to write a book?
So the main reason was just to share my message with the world, and also to bring awareness around how people of all ages can make money doing what they love. And each of the different books that I've written have obviously different agendas, but the main agenda for them as a whole is just to teach people how to make money doing what they love, and how no dream is too small, and just to go for everything that you go for, every opportunity.
What about you, Yasmin? Why did you decide to write a book?
Well, there are a couple of things that I chose to write. So the first thing is because I want to share my story with people of how bullying affected me and how I changed it. So one of the chapters in my book is called Declutter, and some people may just think of the word declutter as just clearing up your space, but I like to think of the word as clearing up your mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to write a book to clear out my mind and to share the things that I've learned and to share it with other people, so that if they've been through the same bullying that I've been through, they can turn their bad experiences into a good one. They can make a happy lifestyle from it. So.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Sabrina? Because now you have put everything in a book. All your success stories now is in a book available for everyone. Why did you decide to do that?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I actually didn't think of writing the book as, we go, okay, I've got this great idea, let me write the book. We transitioned, and then we kept on having all these questions thrown at us. And I never really saw it as a big deal, to be honest. When we do things, we just go, oh, didn't realize that was the impact. So I kept on being asked these questions, and I kept on giving the same result, like the same answers. They're like frequently asked answers. Mm-hmm. And I sort of just felt like one night, I would just put the kids to bed, and I remember just pulling out the laptop and just writing. So by day 2, the book was finished. Mm-hmm. So it was really just a way of sharing, actually. If we just share our journey, that's where people learn the best lessons. The best books in the world are just people sharing their stories. Mm-hmm. And what I realized is that there was a lot of people that wasn't aware of the kind of legal implications of homeschooling. Mm-hmm. You see, a lot of people would like to homeschool, but they're fearful. So one of the things that I really incorporated in the book was that you have to be very mindful. These are our children, okay? This is the most serious decision you're going to make with regards to their interest, because there is a legal implication. You do have to do things the right way, otherwise it could be serious detrimental to yourself and your family. So this is the actual book, #homeschooling. Mm-hmm. And so the first part of the book is all about our journey, the thought process, me going through my own terrors of can I not, timing, what's in place, all of the usual things, like how do I do this? I don't have a plan. Actually, the first step is really just to get to know your children. Once you know your children, you know what their interests are, you know where they desire to go initially, what they want to experience, that's all you need. The rest will start to come to fruition. And then the second part of the book is all about the legality, how you need to deregister from school, who needs to be informed, to what extent, what do you do with home visits, what happens if the police turn up, so on and so forth. What I felt is that it's one aspect me telling the story and saying, it's happy-go-lucky, but it's okay for me because I've got someone to call. What about the serious essence? Because if you don't do these things properly, this can really lead to your children being removed from the home, like all kinds of
Actually, I know of a case of someone that had to go through that, unfortunately.
Yes, exactly. And I felt, if I'm going to give the story, I don't want to just give half. I think, sometimes we tell a story, but we don't talk about the times when we were crying. We tell a story and we don't talk about the time when we phoned someone. So it didn't make sense for me to kind of share our journey without being very open and honest with regards to what I had to learn. Because there were things I didn't know. I remember I went onto Facebook and I told everyone I was homeschooling, and they were like, oh yeah, well done. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. And day 1, I felt so invigorated, but I didn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. And Hermione, she was absolutely amazing. She said, oh, are you aware of WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups? And she sent me a load of links. And that just felt so invigorating to go, oh wow, I kind of know where I go to if I need to ask some information, because one of the things I've never been scared of doing is asking questions. Being a coach and being a mentor, if you're a mother or father that's a coach and mentor, don't feel that you always have to be the leader in all of this. A good teacher always knows when to be the student and the teacher. So I had to become the student. I had to learn so much to ensure the safety of my family, my children. And again, it depends on the school. So by law, it's really important what's law and what's school. See, some schools will do whatever they can to keep you on the system. Why? Just like what goes on around the world, it's all about money. So remember, your child being allocated to their schools, especially if they're SEN, they will do whatever they can within their power to keep that funding there. So they will make you fearful, they will pull it all on. But once you know, and I had no problems when I had to write to the school. Why? Because I had templates, which are also included in the book. I knew exactly what to say, I knew exactly who to address it to. Excuse me, I would suggest that you don't just call up the school, because they say you can call in and notify, but the worst thing to do is just that, because someone say, I haven't spoken to you. Remember, it's always a bed of roses when everything's okay. It's when things go wrong, what do you have to stand on? So I would always say, if it's, you're gonna write in a recorded delivery, but again, you could always lose that proof. So the best way that I felt was advisable was electronic, so email. So I made sure I did everything electronically. I kept electronic and physical paper trails. So all of that is in the book. And this is why I'm so excited about getting the book out there, because there's the practical side, that if you don't cover the legal side, that's the worst thing you can do as a family, because you don't know when things show up, what's okay, what's not okay, what should I do?
So would you say that your book can transform lives?
Absolutely.
People actually read it thoroughly and study it, and they don't just throw themselves just to a complete new world, which is actually homeschooling, because homeschooling sounds really good, and you have many successful people like the Williams, the tennis players that were homeschooled.
I didn't know they were homeschooled. Oh, wow.
John Legend was homeschooled, and a few very successful people. And then people don't know, even the Willow Smith and her brother as well, they're homeschooled. And you have these massive, brilliant examples of homeschool, but people don't know what people have to go through. And I think it's brilliant that you mentioned the legality, because I was not aware. I thought that your children, as far as I'm concerned, they are your children to a degree, and that you have absolute power on the decision to decide which route they take. And
yes.
In the book,
you do it properly, yeah.
Yes,
so it's always the cost start that you have all the rights, exactly like what you've said, providing that you follow the right steps. When you don't follow the right steps, that's when you it will wreak havoc in your life, because it can become quite messy.
So where can people find the book, and where can people follow you as well, guys? You to share hashtags now, share Twitter handles, Instagram, so people know that you are on social media. What's yours? Nice and loud.
Okay, so you guys can follow me on Instagram at author Yasmin Ben Salmi, and Twitter, I think it's the same. Mom, Twitter the same.
Yeah, everything's your name.
Okay. So Twitter is at Yasmin Ben Salmi, and so is on Facebook.
And the book, where can you find it? Put it up.
Show the cover. Excellent. Good. Thank you. Choice yours.
Yeah.
And Amir's one,
and Amir's one is this one. So because I'm intelligent.
I am intelligent. Rijole Ben Salmi. Yeah. Who's next? Next book.
So this is Franchise Adventurer. You can follow me on Instagram. Just type in author Paula Ben Salmi. Facebook, Franchise Adventurer. And on Twitter, it should be Paula Ben Salmi. And
you're the same on all platforms, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
And LinkedIn, yeah.
LinkedIn the same.
And you've got a website. There's a website link on Paolo's Instagram that goes directly to his Water to Go website. Then you can access the book and the bottles from the same.
There's two websites.
Yeah.
So this is one of the books called 10 Seconds to Child Genius.
10 Seconds to Child Genius by Rijole Ben Salmi.
And then, so on Instagram, it's just author Rijole Ben Salmi. And then across all our platforms, it's just Rijole Ben Salmi.
Rijole Ben Salmi. Thank you. And what about your book, Sabrina?
So all of our books are available at any good bookshops, to be honest, so they can order them in. But primarily, you can order from us or on Amazon. So there's such an array of opportunities of how to actually order the book. And what was I going to say? Gosh. And yeah, so it's on social media. We are on Dream Big Together on the Facebook page. We've also got Homeschooling the Ben Salmi Fantastic5 on Facebook. And again, it's across the board, just our name, Sabrina Ben Salmi, all social media platforms. Each of the children are on LinkedIn. So we actually run a host of packages and services to really enrich your family's life, because one of the things that we realize is that was taught to us by one of our friends and a family, actually, the Swan family. And she asked her daughter, what do you want to be now? You see, I want to leave a question for the families, well, for the adults, for the parents. What are you teaching your children to be now? You see, they say it takes 10,000 hours to specialize in something. Why are we waiting until they leave school in order to start activating that premise? Mm-hmm. So all of my children have their own LinkedIn profiles that I manage, obviously, because they can't be on there. And to give you an example, Amir has maybe 400 contacts. Now on LinkedIn, that's powerful. So they're going to watch Amir grow. So by the time he's of that time when he starts looking for partnerships, start looking for opportunities, do you think he has to do a lot to sell himself to people? Chances are no, because he's already recognized as the youngest ever STEM ambassador for Brunel, which is one of the most prestigious universities here in the UK. But also, it's this making you realize that don't just watch what we're doing, come along and learn with us, come along and see how you can seed these teachings into your family. Like every book we've ever published, I've got 2, Trey Sean has 13, Yat Lachey has 5, she's writing another one at the moment. So every book that we're putting out there is about our own personal journey. So it's where we came from and how we managed to overcome the problems. So I just really want to emphasize to families that it's not about watching us. Paolo's the one in the family that always says 3 things. You can either be in the movie, watch the movie, or direct the movie. And the question is, which one are you and your children choosing to do? Because you don't necessarily have to keep watching a movie. It's not just about clapping and watching. Come and get involved. Then once you understand the mechanisms, the science behind it, you then too can activate. And then chances are other people can contribute to your movie, and then vice versa. And you go along having fun together.
I think this was wonderful. It was brilliant. And I think it's going to be very, very useful, because one thing that people need to do after watching you guys is to take action. I think as you said, Paolo, earlier, if you saw your siblings, your mum writing books, and you decided to do the same thing, I think after this interview, whoever is watching, they should use you as a perfect example of people that take action, people that actually are working towards building their dreams and not waiting for anyone or anything or any circumstance to become ideal. Just do it. Yeah. And
you're an inspiration as well, from coming out to my mom to us. If you could interview us, that is a great deal of courage, because you never know when someone's going to say no, we're busy. So you're an inspiration as well. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
It's been a pleasure, and definitely we need to like, comment and share so people actually get to know you guys. Most of the time what happens is that whatever happens in America, you know, I love my American brothers and sisters, but whatever happens there gets shared viral, goes viral, constantly goes viral. And then whatever we do here is everything quiet. So I think we need to share, like and comment, and make sure that everyone knows about your story, guys. Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you here. Have a lovely evening all. Yeah, take care.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.